Hello, everyone. You're probably wondering, well, what's going on? Well, I hope you're doing good. I'm doing well. This is specifically the setup for, well, part two of building your zombie apocalypse. Part two, world building. So as you can see, this time I'm a little more prepared. I brought the thing. I've already got the font set up. Now, what exactly is world building? World building is the act or description of the world that surrounds your characters and universe. So that's pretty simple, you know? You also have spin-offs, which are extensions of your world beyond the main series. And continuity, which is consistency between main series and sister series. Siri? I don't know. So what exactly do you have? Well, first you have world building, which comes to a few questions. First, how far has it spread? All right, we'll do this. So it's how far has it spread? That's a simple one. What you got to ask is it global? Local? I guess you could say multinational. Multinational, you know? Another example you could say is how has it affected certain regions? Regions affected? How? For example, in Final Society, some areas are doing much better than others. You know? So I'll put something like in FS, Africa does semi well, while Europe, or well, not Europe, Australia is in shambles. I'm going to put Australia and Americas, because those were the places that were hit the hardest. Another good example of how far has it spread? Well, what is the largest civilization per continent / world? So you can have something like, oh my god, this is a weird one. All right, there we go. So something like that, you could have large, which would be your federation, CRM / Civic Republic, New Caledonia. For anyone who gets that reference, congratulations. You also have your medium, which is something like the Commonwealth. NPR, I'll put Nat Prov Rep, just so people aren't confused. Your NACR. Another good example would be Omaha, Range 15. You also have Your small settlements, which this would be stuff like Alexandria, Burkhandy, Bodega Cervantes. That's a little spoiler. And then you have your interconnected, which is something like Proctor's from On a Rail. Sorry, that's another spoiler. Ooh, you guys are going to be happy to see that group. What else? You got, Saviors from TWD. But OAR, Saviors from TWD. So yeah. And finally, you have nomadic, which I should also put and how do they operate? So yeah, nomadic, which is the caravan, and the caravan. Keep in mind, these are all from different things. One is from The Walking Dead. One is from Bachelor's Damnation, and one is from Al-Hatir Zazumbe, which is a Palestinian zombie thing. Here's my point. Why is there so much caravans? I have no idea. So another thing with world building, this is important. You got to ask, how are societies dealing with it and each other? For example, God, how do I get this? I don't know how I did it before. I'm just gonna do it like that. Screw my ass. This is hard. We'll do it like this. So, where's my life? Is it international conflict? Is it possibly internal conflict? Is it over food, water, or I don't know, bullets? These are some good things to ask yourself. Another good question to ask is the conflict winnable? Basically, is it a Pyrrhic victory? So obviously, if something's a Pyrrhic victory, it's just a wonder why you'd even do it. But yeah. Another good world building technique is an important one. Is how do places communicate and what are the connections? Connections and communication. Pretty simple, you know? You could ask yourself something like, oh, now it works. You could ask yourself something like, how far is the range of small versus large networks and civilizations. How does trade work? Is there trade? Is there alliances? Military? Economic? What systems are used? For example, this is a very important one. Do they use paper, horsemail, carrier pigeons, ham radio maybe? That's a pretty good thing to ask yourself. Another good one, this is very important to think about, is simply what is in place if one falls? They overrun an ally. If the infected. So yeah. Here's another important thing to ask. It's pretty simple. It simply comes down to conditions. This isn't too bad of something. This is probably the easiest thing you'll find. But it comes down to conditions, and it's food rations, systems used, feudalism, capitalism, Jamahariya. I'll just put democratic socialism. Just a good way to explain it. There's also water usage, and availability. There's some very good stuff here. And another thing, this is one that everyone tends to forget about: electricity methods of production. Obviously, there are some that remember it. For example, The Walking Dead, I commend them for explaining its used water and solar panels in Alexandria. You know, the hilltop uses wood fire. They burned fuel and wood at the sanctuary. It's a really good way to, go against it, to let people know. But there's, like, for example, in a lot of, like, for example, Land of the Dead by George A. Romero, it's never really mentioned, or at least I don't remember it being mentioned, that how they get their power. It's just they have power. Probably by burning the bodies of the poor, seeing how that movie is. But yeah, another good thing you need to consider finally with world building. This is your final thing you need to consider. And it's very important. Very important. Events in the history of your world. It doesn't need to be something that's super wide known. It doesn't need to be something that's, like, what's a good example? It doesn't need to be something that's, known by everyone. Global outbreak, local outbreaks. That's a good one. So you got global outbreaks. You've got, another very one that people tend to forget, and that is medical or political advancements. Wars. Another good example is you could look at possibilities of uh, events. So yeah, something like the Savior War, the day the world died from Final Society, um, assassination of uh, Heinrich uh, Kuberfaust, who, in case you're wondering, that's from Bucharest. Just little thing. Have some patience. There's next on the list. This one is also very important. It's actually no, continuity is after that. It's spin-offs. So this is probably the shortest section. As spin-offs, you really just, there's only 5 things you need to consider. Or no, 4 actually, because one can fit into 2. First, very simple. When does it take place? Oh shit, I gotta turn off bold. When does it take place? Is it connected to the story directly or indirectly? Or I should rather say directly, indirectly, or disconnected. A third is, I guess I should probably put the if it is indirectly or directly connected, how does it affect the main story, and what are the lasting impacts? That's a pretty important one. These are the 2 that could be put together, by the way. Another one, this is what you need to consider with spin-offs, is relations. For example, is it families to main series, unrelated? I should probably say character relations. It could also be friends of people, or it could, if all possible, be unite with main characters from main series at end. Very much possible. And the final thing you need to consider with a spin-off is how many. For example, some things can work well with multiple spin-offs. For example, Final Society, I think, actually really will, because there's so much. I mean, let's be honest, we've got a bunch on the way. There's Among the Damned, there's Asharonda, we're still looking for people to help with that. There's Bucharest, there's Colada's coming, we got a proof of concept, we got a spin-off movie called Over and Out coming out. We got a few things. But they all are connected to the overall story, although in a way where it's very different. Another important, and I mean very important thing in your stories for world building is the simple effect of this one word: continuity. You have no idea how many people have made series that just make no sense continuity-wise. Personally, I really like the Isolation web series. It was well made, it did really well. It was honestly a pretty good series. But there's so much stuff, especially in the final season, that just doesn't match up with the first season, or the second for that matter. And it is really jarring when you've been a fan since the beginning. So how do you help with continuity? Well, I should probably put continuity methods. Here is one continuity method, timeline, which basically means write out a timeline of all events. Secondly, this is another thing, cross-reference with friends, which basically means, have your friends look at your stuff and say, okay, well, maybe this doesn't make sense. This might be an issue. Basically, it's a form of peer review, so I'll put that. Another one is coordination. For example, with the Final Society stuff, I'm working with a fan. You might know him, Sergeant Terror. His name's Caleb Rieger. There's also, I'm working with a guy from Kitworth, New Zealand. I'm working with my old friend Mel Bashlato. So yeah, there's people I work with. But if you work with multiple people, coordination between parties is essential. You cannot, I repeat, cannot just all go your own way, because then you're going to have issues. It's going to be very confusing and contradictory most of the time. A final continuity method is to ask the cast and crew. No one knows the story better than those who help make it. And the collective knowledge will help create more opportunities and help people know, hey, there's an issue. So ask cast and crew about errors. Very important. The next thing you have is when you're thinking of errors. Errors could be things such as, and this is important, time loss, inconsistency of weaponry, battles or events taking place too soon or late. And another one that I see so many times is unrealistic in one spin-off / main and realistic in the others. It's kind of boggles my mind how that makes it through. So yeah, that should help. I'm going to put the thing at the bottom. This is an incomplete list. Be creative. And give your own, and come up with your own ideas. Pretty simple. So yeah, this is mainly just a kind of thing. And as you can see, I will be at the time of recording this, it's actually not even 2025 yet, but hey, I'm passionate and I felt like getting this done. So that being said, world building, you will be able to find this in the description of this video, which anyone with the link can view it. Copy it. And as I've been your fearful leader, Evan Kashinda. I am not related to Kara Kashinda. And, well, hope everyone enjoys it. Welcome to Year of the Zombie, and don't get bit.